point is that I can kind of distract myself and maybe just get myself to talk. Which is hard, because I'm vulnerable too, but I have a lot to be thankful for, and I have a lot to work on, and I'm awesome for recognizing that, and I'm striving to be better because of the love that I have for the people around me. The active part of my brain, the part of my brain that gets bored, that likes to do activities like this, that likes to push the buttons in the right order. If I can sort of pacify that part of my brain and benefit from it, extract information from observing myself while I'm doing things. Part of humility and gratitude is being okay if you're mediocre, because secret, everyone's mediocre, and it just depends on what you're using to compare. Other people making us feel a certain way, it's not their responsibility. It feels like maybe it should be, or like, man, I wish, I don't know, dude. You can go pretty far with what you would wish on, like, you want people to get what they deserve. That's what justice feels like. You want good things to happen to good people, and you want bad things to happen to bad people, and you want things to work out in the end. And hope is a son of a bitch, because you can distort your reality too far, banking on hope, because it's the only outcome that you're willing to accept. One of the things I love most about it is the cooldown management. Like, it becomes muscle memory. Like my meat computer, I have +1 in doing this kind of shit. 1, because I like it, but part of me only likes it because I'm pretty good at it. Or like, given enough time at something, I recognize that there's a process. Sometimes, not always. Like, some things I expect to go perfectly the right first time, and I expect to never have to apologize for things. Like, is that a realistic? It's not. It's not realistic, bro. So, defining, if I am advocating for the fact that you can define what you're willing to let be your reality, which I kind of think that's where my head is at right now, is accepting what needs to be there. Well, I guess defining what needs to be there and what doesn't need there is the trap, and that having the humility of letting go of that, and like having the stance that it doesn't actually really matter what happens, because I trust in myself and the people around me to work together, come up with a solution for any problem, even ones that we're not prepared for. Place where I want to give other people advice, but I need to be taking it and showing them the effects of doing the things I think they should do. So instead of telling them how they can fix themselves, I should be learning from what they need and fixing those aspects of myself. Like, if I'm already going to feel responsible for other people's emotions, I should benefit from the fact that that's happening, rather than let it punish me. So I need to take control. I want to talk about how I feel like shame has been used to control me, and because I'm embarrassed about being embarrassed, and like there's all these layers of, or I guess that's part of shame, is that it stacks. So I'm learning to accept other people's apologies and not... So like letting go of the kryptonite, letting go of the stuff that I'm being handed that doesn't serve me. I can't control how much or how fast the stuff is being handed to me, but I can intentionally address the stuff that I don't need to hold on to, because I don't need it right now, or maybe ever. Maybe I'll need it later, but that's not a good enough reason to hold on to it. It's heavy. It is actively bad for you. Some of them you have to address. I have to say things the way that I do because it's honest, but it sounds all so arrogant. Like, I don't have anything figured out. I'm just trying to pose the questions in a way that is productive and start a conversation with myself about what matters, what am I fighting for? Letting go of the fact that it feels like I should be able to do things alone. Accept that that's a scam. Like, that's a chain letter that everyone receives, right? You have to manually delete it. You can't opt out. You're always going to be handed stuff that you don't need, that doesn't serve you. So I have to focus on letting go, recognizing and letting go of the stuff that doesn't actively benefit. If I can't recognize the ways that it's actively benefiting me, should I prioritize that? Gratitude is important in recognizing what's important, defining your own values, prioritizing what would you go to war for, recognizing what other people would go to war for, picking my battles, understanding the importance of maintaining boundaries and sticking up for myself. But it's understandable to set that expectation, I guess, because you have been able to maintain, not this illusion, but like you've been able to maintain this unmaintainable state for so long. And you've set the, I'm just gonna pick these up. Maybe you've set the bar for yourself so high that it's actually not obtainable to get to a place where you can even, you always think you're behind. Unless you're in a place where you're actively patting yourself on the back and choosing to reward yourself for things that you do, you're not choosing to actively do that, then the consequence of not choosing to do that is that the opposite just happens to you. And it happens in like a gross feeling way, right? There are necessary emotions, and like it's sometimes necessary to go through those gross feelings, but if it's for something that's high on your priority list and it's something that you've invested in recognizing and talking about and establishing, like working with your team, your party, your council, the people that you put your trust in, your top 5, you don't feel like you and your top 5 can handle the next boss, how well are you sleeping? Like how much harder is it to play the game of maintaining appearances if you don't feel safe because you feel like at any time everything could fall apart? It doesn't actually matter. What matters is your family, yourself, what you're experiencing right now, where you're allocating your time and energy, and having the humility to recognize that someone else performing a role that you can perform, or maybe have performed in the have been recognized as being good at doing this task, but you've like maybe developed a little bit of ego around it, or to question yourself if, when offered help or offered a break, or when someone offers you an innervate, when you're out of mana and you're tanking inefficiently because you're out of mana, like maybe one of your better cooldowns costs a bunch of mana and it just is not even in your rotation right now because you're in starvation mode. What you're spec'd into intentionally and what you're spec'd into reactively. And I talk about reaction versus response a lot because I think it's important to identify the difference. Ideally, we would respond all the time. What do you feel when you're experiencing road rage? For me, it's like a warmth, where it's like I feel my body getting hotter. I'm so convinced that this person has wronged me that I'm willing to do obnoxiously dangerous things in an already extremely dangerous scenario. I can remember the way that I felt the last time I experienced road rage. I can't remember what the make or model of the car was, or what they even did. Because none of that's really important. It's just that I was in sort of autopilot while I was driving, or was in an altered state of mind. I was not intentional with where my thoughts were, and so the default, the reaction, is pretty nasty. And I don't want reactions to speak for me. Who deserves your response, and who deserves to, like, you know what, maybe I can do that later, or maybe that isn't worth my time and energy right now. What is worth your time and energy right now? It's you. It's like a dynamic that plays on your sense of independence and your sense of belonging to something larger, or to like a community, because you feel both. And I think that there's like an illusion that you have to pick one or the other and then defend it, when really you should be fostering both, I think, because doing things for yourself is not selfish, even if it may, you know, if you're using a dictionary, it may actually literally be that, but it's more about like demonstrating your self-worth to yourself is important. The part of my brain that I'm allowing to be me, the part that I think is me, is arrogant enough to think that it's the only process at play. And I have to recognize that my body, my meat computer that is hiding in a bone dome, it's important for me to recognize that it's doing its best, and it's flawed, just like everyone else.